Hello, can you see me?
Yes. Yes. Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk TV. And I'm your host, Linda Summers, and we provide information to bring awareness and truth to humanity. And today's topic is, if not us, then who? You can't change anything while you're standing still. And we have Roman Light today with us. So, hey, Roman, welcome to the show. Hey, Roman, can you hear us? He might have froze up. Hey, everybody, and welcome everybody. I might have to text him. Either. Hey, Roman.
Hello, sorry, it's really lagging. I didn't hear anything over the last 2 minutes. Sorry.
It's okay. I introduced the show and said the topic and just welcomed you to the show.
Thank you, thank you. Nice to be here.
You're
Sorry.
no, I know. I had the same problem. I had to actually uninstall Google and then reinstall it so this would not happen. So I think hopefully I'm in real time. So, but if not, reality is something that we're going to talk about in the show today. So I think that we're going to bring that up with consciousness and reality. So thank you for being here. Roman's coming in from Italy, and which is really phenomenal. He's at a really beautiful place that I had the pleasure of seeing where he's at. So it's pretty amazing. But without further ado, let's get on the show because I know Roman's on a time frame here, and so and my guests are, I'm sure, really excited to hear what we have to say today. So I first want to start off with, how did you arrive to the place that you are at today?
So the place that I'm at today is called Damanhur in North Italy, and it's long story short, it's a series of synchronicities. I was living next to Damanhur because I grew up in the southeast of France. Never heard about them, and then I moved in Sydney, Australia.
Uh-oh. I think he froze up on us.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, you froze up on us. Did you know that?
No, sorry. Yeah. So,
Okay.
what do you hear? What's the last thing you
Oh,
said?
you were born in the south side of not too far from there. I don't know
France.
what the name is. Okay.
Yeah. And then I moved in Australia, and one day I heard about a technology that could allow plant to sing, and I found that pretty interesting, like what it means plant can sing. And when I came back in France to visit my family, I decided to have a look, and I discovered a whole other dimension that I didn't know was existing. And yeah, I visited the temple that the Mantra built over the last 50 years, and it was a life-changing experience. And I'm not the only one that has been through that. So every people that came through these temples felt something special, and then yeah, synchronistically 6 months after that, they were in Australia. I went back in Australia, and they came in Australia. So I naturally offered to support them and do a tour of Sydney. And during the conversation, they just basically told me that after 50 years of incubating in Italy, they were ready to open to the world, and they were looking for opening the Australian antenna. So I just raised my hand, and it was 3 years ago, and here I am.
Wow, I love that. Do you feel that you've always been awakened it's to some degree? Like, do you feel like you've always been a yearning or something driving you?
Well, I guess first of all, let's be precise about the word awaken. It's
Yeah.
um, it's a word that is um, complicated to define because there's many different approach to it. I guess I always felt that I was different since I was born. Um, I have been treated as if I was different, even if I didn't really understood what it meant. And yeah, like growing up, I realized that I was seeing the world in a different way, that I was feeling the world in a different way, and instead of being a curse, I tried to make it a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the notion of being awakened is, I guess, something that we need to cultivate. I don't think you reach a threshold and suddenly, wow, you just awaken. Because the more I know, the more I feel, the more I understand the world, the less it makes sense. So I'm not sure the state of awakening is actually something that actually makes sense. It's something that we're here to experiment in a way and to explore, and just be very humble, because as soon as you feel that you understand things, this is when the universe is sending you some big snap in the head, telling you, well, no, you don't.
Right.
So that's what I'm diving into over the last few weeks. Big questioning of what I thought I knew again.
Yeah, I heard once that, and I remember from some pretty profound person, in the sense that they were, what I think I mean by awakened is that we're awakened enough to know that this is not real and that there's something more to this that we don't really understand. But this guy said that if you think you know everything, then you're dead, but also that, oh gosh, I just lost my, what it was, but, like forget everything that you've ever known. Forget everything that you've ever known. And it's like starting fresh. So I think that's pretty interesting what you're saying,
Well, what we know is based on what we believe, and what we believe is always has to be challenged with what we know, and the way we explore it.
Yeah.
The state of awakening, not that I know, not that I'm sure I know what it is. I believe is a state where you stop seeing the separation between the inside out and the outside in, and but it's a state of confusion in the way that, or at least the way I explore it, in the way that to be able to interact with reality, you need to select specific ways, specific word and specific way to interact. And those ways are cultural, they are based on belief system. For example, the belief system that I believe that you understand what I'm saying, or the words that I'm using are actually going to first transfer the integrity and the totality of what I meant, and that they are going to be received by you the same way. So this is a belief, this is not a fact, but that's the best that I can do right now. And this is not something that is very easy to challenge, because as soon as you start to challenge the meaning that you put behind words, then therefore you cannot really interact with the world. In the meantime, when I'm looking at the world in front of me, like I don't really know if I am looking the world looking at me, or if I'm looking the world from the inside out, or if it's the world that is looking at me from the outside in, because that world is projected by my consciousness to give me an opportunity to live something. So the more you get access to consciousness, the more you get access to enlightenment, and the less it becomes easy to explain, because words are limited in their narrative. But basically saying simply, getting access to a state of enlightenment is getting access to the infinite amount of everything that could be, where being conscious is choosing to experiment and explore one aspect of that infinite potential. And that's not something that you can really live in, because when you live in that space, it's very difficult to interact with the world, because the world just wants to be that specific fragment of that perspective. And as soon as you give the full cake, it's too much. It's too much. Like you even lose yourself into it. Because what I'm exploring over the last few weeks is that after spending years trying to see the laws and the rules to organize creation, is now how to dive into the incoherence and bring back and give back to incoherence all its value. Because coherence is one aspect, and we only use the mind to observe reality through the coherence perspective. What about incoherence? Like, incoherence doesn't have its fair part of the game, So that's something that I'm exploring. For example, when you dream, where's the coherence when you dream?
Right.
if you only focus on that state when you're awake, first of all, are we sure that when we're awake, we're awake? How do we know that? How do we know that the true awakening is when we actually are asleep, and that we wake up in this dream to live that experience that has been pre-programmed while we're all sleeping to live that experience? Like, who knows that? Because we're only aware and conscious of one aspect of ourselves. And we believe that the other one is incoherent, so therefore we cannot really speak about it well. If you take reality as a whole, you cannot really separate both.
That's so beautiful. I mean, and it's so in depth that it's
we
like
only started
wrapping...
10 minutes ago, and it's let's start.
Yeah. Right.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I kind of want to, I know we're going to talk about many things. The Yellow Vest movement is one of the things that I want to talk about, because there's a spiritual aspect. I watched that live video while you're there, and you had done a video, and I love the aspect that there's a spiritual component to that, which from the outside of the world looking in, the outside world is seeing something very different, right? But it's like seeing the forest through the trees. So my first question to you is, how did you get involved in that? Like, it's kind of like, how were you nominated for that? I don't say nominated, but elected or chose that position?
Well, so the first point is that I've never been nominated, I've never been chosen, I've never been, because it's not about that. The Yellow Vest is not about nominating people or choosing people. It's about each individual now standing up and taking responsibility. And so a little bit of my background: I never voted in my life, ever. I never believed in politics. I never believed in left and right and up and down and in and out. Like, for me, it doesn't make sense. I never believed that I could give the right to anyone else to make decisions on my behalf. I never believed in that concept. I always wanted to take responsibility for what I'm doing. So, because this is the only way nature structured itself to allow to learn and to grow, by making decisions, making mistakes, learning and growing. So pain is the teacher, and when you do something wrong, well, you understand that you shouldn't do it twice. So when you give your vote to someone else to make decisions on your behalf, first of all, you don't make the action. Second of all, the one who makes the action on your behalf doesn't take the responsibility and the consequences. It is you. So you pay for someone else's initiatives without even learning from your own actions. So it's something that is dramatically wrong in terms of and I always felt that since I was very young. So I never protested, never did any protest, because I never felt that a protest was the right answer to politic distress, and I never believed in like using the body as a way to express ourselves in the street would actually make any difference. And for the first time, the Yellow Vest, when I saw the Yellow Vest happening, first of all, I felt for months that there was something going on, because the government in France was doing some really dirty stuff, and surprisingly, the people were very quiet. I was like, there's something weird going on here. Like, why people? It's the image that I have in my mind is like, you have a cat, and it's starting to play with it, and you play, and then it stops. It just freezes. And then you play, and it doesn't do anything, and suddenly just jump on your face and just rip you off. And that's what I felt like. I felt that the French was just like, we just like complained for years. We disagree, and suddenly they just stopped protesting. And I was like, what's going on? And for 7 months, a year, the government was just doing the most stupid reform possible. And I was like, wow, like what's happened? Does the people just lose it, and they just like resignate and they just abandon? And no, I just felt that there was something growing, like that energy that was just like building and building and building. And when that guy made that call on the 17th of November, I was like, wow, there's maybe something there. There's no political party, there's no revendication, it's just a popular protest of I am done with your bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, because that's when it's true. It's not because as soon as the mind tells you to go in one direction or the other one direction, you're like, well, there could be some arrangement here. But as soon as it's chaotic and disorganized, then I'm like, wow, this is organic. This is something that is alive, that has its own intelligence. So I felt it, and I decided to join from the first week. And after a few weeks being on the highway, we were blocking the highways, and we were allowing people to pass without paying. Basically, we just allow free highway toll on the toll. And after a few weeks, I was starting to speak about that subject that I worked on with many other people for years, which is called the referendum initiated by the citizens. Because it's a popular revolution, so most of the people were uneducated. It was coming from that ground deep sensation of injustice, and they just wanted to do something, but they didn't know what, and they didn't know how. So as soon as I felt the fact that it was genuine people doing it, I was like, okay, now let's support those people to understand what is the core problem, because most of them are completely uneducated about international economy, international relationship, deep state, none of that, money creation. They didn't know anything. So first, when I started to talk to them, they were like, wow, who are you? Are you a journalist? Are you a politician? Are you infiltrated cops? Are you I've been through all the names possible, because I was processing information differently from them. But slowly they just get to know me. They're just like, wow, I'm just like you guys. Who are you? Say, I'm a yellow vest. And you, who you are? I'm yellow vest. Well, so we're brothers. That's it.
Yeah.
What else do you need to know? Well, but you speak too well. Sorry to have done my homework before, but what you seem to discover over the last 6 months, I discovered that 10 years ago. So, and instead of just staying on my side and waiting for someone to find solution, I spent 10 years studying all the possible solution in all the different aspects that I could. Energy, spirituality, economics, community living, quantum physics, health, alternative health. I'm trying to cover every aspect that I could look around to be ready for the moment. So I haven't been chosen, I haven't been elected, but I basically got ready for the right time. And when the right time came, a series of events, synchronicity happened, and I basically took my phone and I made that video, which is called "France Has a Message for the World," and that video has been seen by 1 million people in 4 or 5 days. And suddenly I received thousands of messages every day, and it was really overwhelming, because I was entirely unknown before. I had a few people who knew me in many different aspects. My research on sacred arithmetic, sacred geometry, music, light, free energy, alternative healing, but there was I never tried to expose myself. I was just working on the side as a light worker, and when that event came, suddenly a lot of faces turned in my direction, and I was like, wow, okay, so what do I do now? Because the message wasn't that much about free energy or technology or spirituality. It was about, okay, what's the yellow vest? And so I brought that political structure called the referendum initiated by the citizens, and it made sense. People got it. They're like, wow, yeah, of course it makes sense. If the people can get the initiatives of the referendum, then that's it. We can really get access to a true democracy and not this illusion of democracy. So to answer your question, no one chosen me. I just, after weeks of seeing how the Yellow Vest movement was structuring, I think it's 3 weeks, because it started on the 17th and I did my video on the 12th of December. So it was just 3 weeks, but it was very intense. It was 3 very intense weeks. And I created a group, RIC, referendum in French. But as soon as I did it, I actually saw that there was already 5 other ones that has been made, because a lot of people worked on that subject for years. So I was like, wow, well, it seems that France is already on the good path. And in 3 weeks' time, they were starting to talk about that referendum initiated by the citizen on TV. So I was like, wow, it's happened so fast, like because
Yeah.
it was just the right time. Now, I guess a huge part of France understand, like know about the RIC, RIC. They don't understand exactly how to set it up or how deeply this can be a transformation, but at least it came to their awareness, which is huge. And so I decided to make that in English because I was like, if I cannot really serve the French people, because there was already many people speaking loud and taking position, I was like, at least I can try to spread this in the English network. And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
But frankly, to be honest, I received a lot of messages, but for me, it's completely, how can I say, it's completely, I can't feel it. I receive messages of people saying I changed their life, blah blah blah, thank you, blah blah blah, but I can't, because it's not real. It's just messages on my computer, you know. I
Yeah.
haven't yet met. When I've been in England, I met a few people where I could feel that thing, but I haven't met yet the impact that I did. But I have some feedback here and there from, but it's very difficult. It's not like I don't know, someone who write a beautiful music and suddenly do a concert and have like, I don't know, 10,000 people who come to watch you. It's not like that. It's just I made videos, I received comments, and now I'm trying to bring more and more and more of all the work that I did before to like open the consciousness of my audience. It's a journey.
Yeah. What a beautiful journey though too. I mean, I think the impact is powerful. Do you know what I mean? When we take back our authority and our power and make a stand for what we truly believe in, that's a huge impact, you know, and it takes people, a community to do that. So how many were there that you guys started, and then how I mean, because you know the press, the media, which Trump calls fake news, you know, says there's only, you know, a certain amount where we know there's millions of people that are doing this. Is that correct?
In France, the
Hmm.
Yellow Vest, you mean? Yeah, numbers are very difficult to establish. We know that there is between 70 and 80% of the French population, which
Wow.
should represent about 50 million people, which are supporting the movement.
Yeah.
How many people are outside wearing the yellow vest and actually doing the protest? We don't know. We expect that maybe 1 million, 2 million, 3 million.
Yeah.
But the numbers doesn't really matter. Like what matters is that sense of
Yeah.
togetherness and that sense of understanding that there's something going on and that we reached the point of no return,
Yeah.
and that now we don't know how we're going to solve this situation, but we just know that the government is stubborn in a way that is pathological.
Yeah.
Because and they just put more oil on the fire, more oil on the fire. So it seems that we have like crazy people, basically. Like so many things have happened. Like
Yeah.
last weekend, we saw this surrealistic situation where the cops were blocking senators to go into the parliament.
Wow.
You know, just
Yeah.
a second, I need to process that thing. The senators are blocked by the police, which is here to protect the democracy against the senator going into the Senate, which is
Right.
the symbol of the democracy. And this
Yeah.
is magic.
Yeah.
It's just magic. So how did we arrive in that space in just a few months? It's unbelievable. We had a parliamentary who has been beaten up by a cops 2 weeks ago. How, and he showed his card of deputy. How did we arrive to that point? How did it so quickly? It's amazing. It's amazing to look at it and how did it happen? And it's a real lesson for the world. Like for those who believe that, well, it only happens in weird places in Africa or China or whatever. I'm like, well, France was known as a good place to express yourself, and you know, years after years, people get asleep with this narrative of those words who are controlling our psyche slowly and bringing us into that dream state where we just survive, and we are happy to survive because we believe that there's nothing better to expect from life. And then one day you wake up and you're like, wow, so now we have more than 300 people who has been badly injured. So like we have 6,000 people injured, 6,000 people. And we have 300 or 350 people who have been badly injured. Bad injured is a loss of a member, so loss of hand, loss of a foot, broken skull, loss of an eye, like the eye exploded, the jaw exploded, teeth exploded, and they are moms and dads. They are moms and dads, and you're like, and I'm not talking about all the other people who has been like receiving so much tear gas that they have like psychological trauma, like we like it's, and the media are lying constantly. Trying to protect the government, trying to say, well, the violence is coming from the yellow vest and blah, blah, blah. Last weekend, they burned out the stuff like, well, we didn't do it. It's actually the police who are now wearing yellow vest and who are damaging things to say that the yellow vest are doing it.
Right.
And there are people who are still stupid enough to believe that it's the yellow vest doing it. So we arrive to a situation that is... you know, when I was talking about the right for irrationality to exist, you know, like that space of total irrationality that actually claim its own existence, I think this is where we are now.
Yeah. And I think
France. It's the Champs-Elysees, it's Paris, it's that romantic dreaming space where, like, well, come on the weekend and, and you're gonna have a shot of awe of like that reconnection to reality, because like this is all marketing, this is all bullshit marketing. Like Paris is dirty, it's a beautiful building, like a lot of French, but it's not more beautiful than Budapest or Dublin or London or whatever. You know, those guys organize themselves, say, well, like the French people, we're going to have a lot of tourism going there, and Paris is going to be Paris. Well, Tour Eiffel is a nice place to be, but let's be honest, there's a beautiful place on earth, and Paris is not the exceptional things. But now that we have that shock of reality, now that we see what's going on there, it's awakening a lot of people to the dream of, well, Paris is a jail. Paris has such a density, it's so expensive, it's so dirty, there's so much 4G and 5G, like the grid is so dense that it just like mess with your mind and your psyche.
Wow.
It's anyway, it's not that dreaming space when people can discover love or anything like it. It's not anymore. France wasn't France for a long time. That France is waking up. For the first time in my entire life, I'm proud to say that I'm French, because French is that energy, it's that thing that, like, it's that cat that play with you a little while, but then just lose it. Just lose it, just like boom.
Yeah.
So now the government decided to bring the military to protect the monument against the terrorists, mums and dads.
Wow.
So well, we'll see how next Saturday will work. Because military are heavily weaponized. I don't think it's represent a big danger, but we never know.
Exactly.
We never know how things can go. So
it's trusting in the universe that divine intervention will come into play. You know.
Yeah, or that chaos will come and there's going to be a big bloodbath that is going to bring everyone. Because you know, now there's still some people in France who believe that even if we had, I think, 20 people who lost an eye, that's fine. You know, that's okay. Like, what are you doing on the weekend? Seriously, you can just go fishing and leave us alone. Like, there's some people who still don't process that we already reached the point of no return a long time ago.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, when we teach history, you know, when we teach the Third World War, like how Hitler came in power and everything, we teach history with from a different perspective, like as if we were separate from it.
Yeah.
But now that the history is made and it's written every day, like people don't realize what's going on. We become that actors of events which are much bigger than us. It's much bigger than you and I. Like there's events needs to happen, and if you happen to raise your hand and be a part of it, then boom, you're just going to be taken by those events, and who knows when it's going to bring you. So that's where we are with France. Where is it going to bring us? We have no idea. We just know that the time is now.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, and I was just going to say too, what I heard too was, it's about bringing truth. And, I talked about this in another show too, that where social media was used for surveillance, right? But what we've done as humanity, the light workers, have really changed it around and used it as a venue, a platform to be able to have shows like this or other people reporting things that are really happening. But as you said, there's some people that are still in a slumber and still asleep. And what is it going to take to really awaken them? We don't know. But, in one of your videos, you were saying that, that's why the title is, you can't make any changes by standing still. You were saying, what is it within you each day that you can inspire the world or yourself, or just inspire, to be able to do something different, make something different. And that's not verbatim, but that's what I took out of that. It's like, what can we do? Because it's us making the change, each one of us doing our part and whatever that is.
Yeah, it's a challenging aspect because the mind is there to contain what can be done and what cannot be done.
Yes.
And when you're facing a situation where something needs to be done and you're not ready to do it, this is where life is sending you more challenge. Because if it needs to happen, no matter if you're ready, it will happen. So you better go with the flow, and you better break your limitation, because if you're not, you're going to be smashed. It's always the image of you have that massive wave coming towards you, and you see it coming closer and closer and closer. And you have two options. You can just stay still and just face the wave that's going to come and smash your face, or you can just starting to turn around and get ready to jump and embrace the movement.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. If you wait too long, if you don't jump at the right time, if you don't anticipate the wave, then you're just gonna take it in your face. So and the challenge is that the mind is there to tell you what is possible, what is not possible, but the mind has a lot of issue to anticipate the irrationality of existence. So it cannot only tell you, all right, in your existence, based on that situation plus that situation plus that situation, normally the outcome of this situation should be this. Well, you have 50% of chance that yes, it's going to match something that you previously experienced, and 50% of chance that it's going to be an entire new experience. So the best is to be aware of the possible outcome, but also get ready for everything, because it's not by denying reality that you're going to anticipate what's going on. So on a different topic, for example, like we are all focusing on the climate change and everything like that. Like I'm part of those people who don't believe that climate change is caused by humans for years already. But it doesn't mean that I'm advocating for pollution and for the usage of fossil fuel energy or massacres of animals and stuff like that. It's two completely separate things. Like the lack of discernment is also a huge problem that we're facing today, like with social media and fake news. Like people are more prompt to be categorized. Are you pro or against the environment? Like just the question is laughable. How can you be against the environment? So the level of the questions indicate the level of consciousness that they want you to get access to. So like, are you pro or against polluting the environment? well, we're all against polluting the environment. Okay, so
Exactly,
how do we define pollution? Well, the usage of plastic, for example, is one of them. Okay, how can we fix that? By using recyclable plastic or biodegradable plastic? Well, that's a good idea. Why are we not implementing it? Oh, because there's political agenda where very wealthy people prefer you to use petrol because they already have the exclusive control on petrol, where if you're using hemp plastic or recyclable banana plastic, for example, anyone can do that, and they don't want to lose their position of exclusivity. So it's not that much about what do we think is good or not. It's about how can we transform our society to allow the proper solution to be implemented in our society. And that's where we go back to the RIC, the referendum initiative by the citizen. Because if the politics, which are corrupted by the banks and the big corporation, cannot make the change, then in that case, it is the people who need to stand up and say, well, you are corrupted, but we're not. Okay, so we decide that we want to make a referendum, national referendum, to ask, do we all want to use biodegradable plastic? And if the answer is yes, then we ban fossil fuel plastic. End of the story.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
Yeah.
It just requires agreement and reason and organization. And the only solution so far that the deep state or the, let's call it the elite, the global elite, have found to avoid this type of situation is to make us more and more and more busy. Because the more busy we are, the more focused we are on using things like making money or getting rich or getting in that easy life, and the less we have energy to actually focus on the solution. So that busyness that we are in all the time is responsible for that. And if you don't have the level of consciousness to realize it and to slow down, to deep breath, and to like, oh, what do I really need? What is my need? My need is to feel safe. My need is to feel fulfilled. My need is to be surrounded by the right people. How can I achieve that state? And just processing step by step the information, so then you will not be taken by that constant desire concept where like commercialization transform, for example, women's body into sexual tools to generate desire for everything and transform needs into desire constantly. So it's a very challenging thing to do on a constant basis, because it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's great is that it's when we bring things up like that, when it's brought to the surface, because if people don't know what they don't know, right? I mean, yes, it's common sense. It's why, of course, we'd be against pollution, but there's some things, don't you think, that since we've been programmed and conditioned for so long, we don't really know, and so it's bringing this to the surface to say there are options. We do have choices, but we've been told, like you said, that that we don't have options, and we're just kind of so busy that we don't take the time.
Well, the base of the suffering is ignorance. So, for example, like we think that carbon dioxide is dangerous for the planet. Well, because there's a theory that wants that if you put too much carbon in the atmosphere, then you're going to have that heat effect. And I love how science can easily just throw this type of things in the world, and people are like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So if it makes sense, then therefore it's true. Well, there's a difference between coherence and truth. Okay. Next time that people would just make a long drive on a long highway, pay attention to the tree around and try to find the trees which are dirty. Try to find trees which are not healthy, which have mushrooms, which have sickness or disease on it. I bet you're not going to find any, because ignorance, which is how power can grow on, like most of people think, for example, that a tree is growing because of the nutrient that you have on the ground. Well, where is the carbon in the ground? Where do you find the carbon in the ground? Like, you have nutrients, you have minerals, you have a lot of things, but the carbon doesn't come from the ground. The carbon comes from the air. This is why a tree is absorbing carbon dioxide, keep the carbon for itself to solidify, to structure itself, and release the oxygen that it doesn't need. So the carbon is necessary for tree to grow. So if you release more carbon dioxide, well, you're just going to make very happy trees. That's the truth. The problem is that if the people don't understand it, if they're ignorant of that thing, if they believe that trees are taking all the mineral from the ground, well, think about it. If they're taking all the minerals from the ground, after 2 or 3 years, the tree will just die.
Exactly.
Because they will not have time to recuperate and regenerate everything. And it doesn't make any sense. It's not coherent. It's not logic. It's like believing that the tree gets the energy from food. Like you give nutrient and then the tree get energy from that. No, it's not. Energy is a natural state of flow of energy from the sky to the earth. There's this constant flow of energy, and the only thing that the tree needs is to have nutrient on the ground to have electroconductivity. It's the electroconductivity that the tree is looking for. It looks for water and nutrient to have that polarity in the ground, so the energy can flow from the sky to the earth. And while it will flow from the sky to the earth, it will solidify with the carbon dioxide that's going to peak in the air. It's a whole different approach than thinking that, you just give food to the roots and then the tree will grow. It doesn't work this way at all. Not at all. But as we're ignorant of that thing and we just been fed fake information, then it's like when I explained that modern science, for those who dare to ask the questions of gods and spirituality, modern science think that we live in a dead reality where matter doesn't have consciousness, where everything is dead. And then suddenly consciousness just happen in that dead environment. It's like when they try to define 3D and they're like, okay, you have one plan, which is the 1D, which is dead, that is void of consciousness, and then you have a second plan that is still void of consciousness. Then you have a third plan that is void of consciousness but create that two-dimensional reality that we see as cartoons and stuff like that, which is still void of consciousness. And then you add a fourth plan, and suddenly you have a volume, and suddenly now you can have consciousness. How? We don't know, but and you're like, guys, like, is it really the best you could find? Is it really how? And if the people knew how ridiculous and how incoherent this whole perception of reality is, they will actually think twice before what this so-called science is bringing. I'm not denying science in general. I'm just like focusing on the roots of science first. Like, because if science is there to tell us how we should understand the thing, where they should actually at least coherent with themselves. And they claim that religion is full of shit, which is pretty true. But they replace the notion of God, the notion of Big Bang. And the difference. Like God made the world in 6 days, whatever, and like created everything. Okay, well, that's a concept. But they just said, no, this is wrong. This is not possible. We don't believe in God. Great. Okay, what do you believe? Oh, Big Bang. Oh, okay. And what the Big Bang did? Big Bang created the whole universe in a fraction of a second. Oh, wow. So the Big Bang is stronger than God. Big Bang did a better job than God. Like God takes 6 days, where the Big Bang just did that in a fraction of a second.
Right.
And you're like, wow, are you serious, guy? Are you really serious? You think that the concept of God is a ridiculous idea, but you think that having an explosion that creates the whole universe is a better idea? Seriously? Like, where this explosion went? What was there before? What happened after? Who decided of that Big Bang? From where? Why? How? Do you have any beginning of a fraction of a second of any explanation about this? Or is it just replacing God by Big Bang? Which, by the way, in the Bible says that in the beginning was the verb, and the verb become gods. And like, well, Big Bang is a song, is a sound. So you're not that far if you pay attention to the two theories. So and but all those paradigms induce a relationship with reality that people do not question. when I have people telling me that they are atheists, for example, I'm like, so atheism means that there's no creator, okay, that there's no God that is responsible for the creation. So the idea that formulates the non-existence of its own creator actually said that the idea itself doesn't exist.
Right.
And so how is it possible? How is it possible that the idea that deny its own creator is actually deny its own existence? How is it possible when you are expressing yourself? Like how do you bring that in your mind? How can you say that the relative expression of the self that is even considering its non-existence can consider its non-existence through existence? I never get that. I never get that concept.
Right. Well, and if the person really thinks about it, their mind has to do something, because it's like, trying to find where is that information, right? Because when you're saying it, it makes total sense, then that person doesn't really exist.
Yeah, if that person expressed the idea of its own non-existence, how do you do that? How can you say that you do not exist if you formulate yourself the idea of your non-existence in an existing world, in an existing dimension? How do you do that? So, like agnosticism, so I do not have the knowledge, agnostic, I do not have the gnose of how this is all happening, is coming from a space of humility, and for a long time I was agnostic. Now I came from agnosticism to spirituality, because now I have the certitude that there's something. I recognize reality as a paradigm. I recognize reality as a space, as a field, as a potential. So therefore, something created it, and what I believe that created it is myself. I create this reality every day, and we co-created it because we're all part of the same plan, and we're all operating it from a different reality, and we all come together to manifest this thing. And it is my responsibility as a fraction of that consciousness to remind to all the other one that we just lose ourselves a little bit, and if we don't readjust the direction, we're all just going to destroy the whole game. So let's not be stupid.
Yeah. I love that. It's just so, it's like, it's questioning, so the person, if we don't ask enough questions and we just take it for what it, like you say, the scientists are saying, and we just take that as the truth, instead of really asking these questions of the root, getting to the cause, or the actual, getting to the root of it, the core.
Yeah, it's like the theory of matter. Yeah. When someone tell me, this is real, I say, okay, define me matter. I'm not even ask you to define me what real mean, because that would be too complicated for most of the people. But let's focus on the word matter. What is matter? Oh, matter is made of molecules. Well, okay, so what are molecules? Oh, molecules are made of atoms. Okay, what atoms are? What is atoms? Oh, atoms are made of proton and electron. So, okay, how long are we going to play that game of? I'm not telling you what are they made of. I'm asking you, what is it?
Yeah.
So you tell me, okay, it's a mix of small elements who are coming together. Okay, so what are the proportion of those elements, first of all? And something that a lot of people are ignorant of, again, is called the atomic void, the atomic vacuum. And this is something that normally everyone learns when you study a little bit science, and basically tells you that every atom has 99.9999% more emptiness than it actually has matter. So if we evaluate atom as the smallest way to quantify reality, and that smallest particle, smallest aspect that we can quantify is actually 99.9999% empty, so what are we talking about? What is matter? Are you aware of that fact? You seem confused.
Me? Uh-oh, you froze up.
Sorry. I was
There
asking,
you are.
were you aware of that point or?
Of the atomic void? No, I was
Yeah.
not. No. Yeah, I didn't
No.
know
Okay.
that. The 1990,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me re-explain it. So basically, we've been educated about understanding atoms as you have that neutron, that ball in the center, and you have the electron that is spinning around.
Yes.
But what we don't know is that when we change the scale, so instead of having that nice little drawing on a piece of paper, if we change the scale, if the proton, which is the heart of the atom, was the size of a basketball, because we change the scale, just like,
Yeah.
the electron will actually be 30 kilometers from here.
Kilometers
30
meaning,
kilometers.
how
30
far is that?
kilometers.
I know, but I don't know kilometers. I only know miles.
Um,
So is it a distance? Is it like really far? Is that like far or?
I think it's maybe about 12 miles or 14 miles,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Doesn't.
and the distance between that electron, which is roughly the size of a ping pong ball, and that basketball, all that distance is void of anything that we can observe.
Mm.
Okay? So,
Okay.
that gives you, for one atom of hydrogen, which has one electron, for one atom of hydrogen, you have that much nothing inside. So now I multiply that by the amount of air you're breathing, by all the cells of your body, by all the atoms that are composing the Earth, and you're like, but there's just emptiness. This is all empty. So what are we talking about? What is matter? What is matter? And they're like, oh, well, we are going to explode neutron and find the boson, the X boson, and the particle, which are going to show you that this is real. So, well, when you go inside of the proton, you find out that there's another ratio of 99.999% of nothingness. So, guys, like, we see the pattern. It's happening again and again and again. The more you're going to go inside so-called matter, the more you're going to find emptiness. And if you find emptiness, so what is reality? What is tangible? What is physical? It's an illusion.
Yeah. But
And
when you
this
say
is...
the matter would be consciousness,
Sorry?
wouldn't matter be consciousness?
I would define vacuum, void, as consciousness.
Yeah.
If the void is consciousness, then therefore the entire existence, the entire reality is consciousness.
Yeah.
So therefore, the paradigm that claimed that reality is void of consciousness, and it's a dead matter. First of all, define me matter. Let's play that game of defining matter. And then let's play that game of defining dead matter. Because the only thing that we can all accept about this reality is that when you go into the realm of the atomic realm, the quantum realm, and all that, it's constantly moving. It's constantly moving. So how can it be dead? How can you even believe that this? Because dead is normally the definition of dead is something that doesn't move anymore. That doesn't have that natural motion. Where, like, when you go into the atomic realm, an atom is immortal. So you can't even say it's the opposite. It's the opposite of that. He is immortal. He cannot die.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
It's so absurd when you rationally understand all this. You're like, how can you believe atheism? How can you understand those concepts? That doesn't make any sense, even based on their own definition.
Yeah. It's true. That's true. So how do you, I mean, you talked about free energy, you talk about the, well, earlier you were saying how you wanted to blend all of that in. We've been talking about that as we've been going along, about the consciousness and the reality. But the sacred geometry, so in the Hermetic knowledge, so you've done a lot of work, and I know all of this is intertwined. I mean, to me, I feel that it all is really of the same, it's all intertwined. It's like that DNA strand. can you kind of just go into, how all of that with the sacred geometry and how that you're applying that, the hermetic knowledge and the principle? I mean, it sounds very fascinating. And
Well, I
yeah,
discovered
let's talk about that.
I discovered a few years ago a symbol, mathematical symbol that speaks to my soul. I couldn't. It took me years to actually understand with my mind what it meant, and it's only by studying Hermetism has been given by the Egyptian tradition that I actually realized that this is what I was seeing. This is what I was seeing in this paradigm, and yeah, it brought me into that journey to go deeply into the understanding of the law. But basically, there's 8 principles who are governing the totality of creation, and on one side you have those who know it, you have those who know it. Those who know it will have a map that will allow them to navigate in reality, and those who do not know it will basically be like blind. They will just live in life without having that compass that can basically guide you in your existence. So yeah, I discovered starting to it is a very difficult education, because it actually teaches you that the state of balance, which you mentioned a little bit before, is the natural state of let's say rest, stillness, okay, where you do not consume much energy, you just recuperate, you structure, you solidify, and life is about that dance between that which is structured and that which has to be destructured. And we've been programmed to qualify that and put judgment saying, oh, structure is good and destruction is bad. Well, this is moral programmation, because in existence, nothing that can evolve without the destruction of what was, to allow the rebirth of what will be. Yeah. So it's the constant dance between that sedimentation, that solidification of things, that needs to be challenged by its own destruction. The myth of the phoenix, that needs to burn up to the ashes to be able to rebirth from the ashes, and to become another better version of itself. And this is something that is completely destroyed in our culture, because there's 2 massive taboo in our culture. One is about life through sexuality, through the lack of respect for the feminine energy and all that, like that's taboo around, like through Christianity and all the different religion who put woman energy into one specific box and say, like, you go there and don't you dare get out of it. And the second taboo is about death. And this is something that really needs to be considered for anyone who wish to go in a spiritual growth, because I'm not a big advocate of worshipping the feminine energy, because the whole idea is to find a balance between feminine and masculine. And that balance is that you shouldn't exacerbate one or the other. You should find that perfect balance between one and the other. But the big problem that we're going through today is that we are even ignorant of what is the nature of that masculine and feminine energy. If you, again, use words that you don't comprehend, how can you grow properly in that understanding of what is the feminine energy, what is the masculine energy, and how both of them needs to work together and organize themselves. So I spent a lot of years researching all those fields to be able to see properly the organization, at least the outside organization. And what my path is now bringing me in is to go into the inside world, where coherence starts to dissolve and express itself in a different way.
Wow. Well said. I love when you talked about the balance, finding the balance of the masculine, the feminine. What did you discover in that?
Well, what is your definition of the feminine energy?
openness, love. Well, I would say
So
the masculine would be the same thing. Love is really,
that's the problem.
that's it.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. So
No,
how
that's the problem.
distinguish? How do you distinguish if your own definition can be applied to one or the other?
Well, because I feel that we have actually created genders anyway. So there's a masculine, there's a feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're really looking at the whole fact of everything is illusionary, then there really is no gender. There's only consciousness that resides within us, and that
Yeah,
consciousness is love.
this is true in one way, but on the other way, you also see that there's a polarity.
Yes.
And that this polarity, even if it's apart, the two sides of the same coin, they still have different properties. So what are these properties according to you? What distinguish masculine energy and feminine energy?
Oh gosh. Well, first thing that comes to my mind, this is what just comes to my mind, but I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. Like I don't answer just like, but I would say that the masculine is a more, it's like the pillar. It's the strength. And
so
the feminine.
Women are not pillar and are strong?
Yes.
Is what you say?
Yes, they are, but there is a slight difference. I guess I feel like.
All right.
Yeah, I don't really know unless I'd really have to think about it. You have to educate me on that more because I'd be willing to enter into another perception of what I don't know, right? Because I only know what I know of what I've read or learned or have, come across, right?
So through this geometric and hermetic understanding, I came through the realization that everything is polarized, which is something that we all know. But we don't all understand the motion of the polarization. So each polarization has a motion. And basically, what I define, and it could be exactly the opposite, what I define as masculine is what comes from the center, away from the center. That's what I will define as masculine. It's a direction. It's
center.
Something that go away from the self. And the feminine energy is what goes towards the self. Because even if reality is a very complex and very diffuse reality, the only remaining things in our existence is our own perspective. My perspective is the only remaining things in my whole existence, the same as you. The only thing that never changes is my perspective. So therefore, I am my only truth. The same way when you look at the sky, the sky is spinning 360 degrees every night, but you always have the polar star that stays at the same position. So even if the world is completely shifting constantly, there's always chaos, which is permanent motion, and stillness, which is, in your case, your consciousness, your own perspective. So that's the only way you can actually define the polarity. Is it something that is going towards me, or is it something that is going away from me? Okay, so when it's going away from yourself, we call that masculine, because it's the conquer of the unknown. From the outside in, from the inside out, come from inside to the outside. And the feminine is the conquer of the inside world. So it's the reunification of what has been separated. Okay? And this is where suddenly you can start to see that if you do not have the proper understanding, if you do not have the proper realization of those notions, which can be applied to everything, can be applied to every aspect of creation, then you are in a state of confusion because you will not know what to do, how to do. So basically, if you're only focusing on the external world, your masculine energy will be too predominant. If you're only focusing on your inside world, your feminine energy will be too predominant. So the whole idea is to find a balance between both.
Yes.
Okay? If you are sacrificing yourself, if you're offering yourself to the world,
Mm-hmm.
or if you are completely spending like all your time with yourself, you are unbalanced. So the whole idea is to find that notion. So if you look, for example, like if we define the gender by the sexual organ, a penis is an energy that comes from the inside out, where a vagina would be an energy that comes from the outside in.
Yeah.
And we see that nature actually polarized us in that way. But this is working from below. If we look at the chest, it's the opposite. Because of course the balance needs to be horizontally and vertically. So for the chest, the women are positively polarized. So the energy goes from the outside in, the inside out, sorry, it's getting out. Where for the man, it's the opposite. So you see that there's a language here. There's a geometrical language that has been encoded just in front of our eyes to allow us to constantly balance what has been separated. And it's the ignorance of those laws that makes people confused and lost in their journey.
Yeah. Wow, I would never have thought of that. And it makes total sense.
Yeah. The same way every aspect of our body is going out in front of our body. Like we don't have a nose in our back. We don't have breast in our back. If we look at the bum, we can see actually an energy coming in.
Yeah.
And it comes in from the back because it comes out from in front. This is a language. This is the language of nature. This is the language of reality, how reality operates. And you have those who knows it and who clearly sees how the whole machinery function, and those who are just lost in translation, trying to make sense of something that is very confusing, but actually very simple.
Yeah, very.
And when you start to apply this methodology of observing reality to every aspect of creation, you find out that it's the same thing. It always applies based on the same principles. They just go into more complexity, basically. And the way I explain that is that complexity is, let's do it another way. Simplicity encompasses the totality of everything that could be. Complexity would be just one expression of that simplicity into one specific vector of direction. So for example, if this is simplicity, okay, that's a simple wave, this would be complexity. But this would actually be tiny micro aspect of that simplicity. So it's just a replication of simplicity that actually structure it in a way that looks complex. And what science is doing today is that it's looking at complexity and says, oh, we're going to explore reality through complexity. Well, good luck, because complexity is infinite. You can actually go and cut your atoms into particle and cut your particle into quark and cut your quarks into whatever you want. You will always find something. There's no end. This whole reality is just a fractal, constant things moving, and you can just waste your entire existence trying to find the beginning or the end, because guess what? There's none.
Wow. Ooh, I got a lot of stuff going on in the morning here. So I love it. I love it. It's just, yeah. It feels really good.
It's bringing back order into chaos.
Yeah.
But order is also boring, because order is stillness, and stillness is structure, and structure is boring because it has to be destructured and destroyed to allow the rebirth of what will be.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
And this is just a tiny little aspect of that course, like that course that I did. This is only one chapter. This is the chapter about gender, but there's many, many other chapters who explain in details how everything is organized in the world, and that gives you more perspective on understanding who you are in regards to all these, and And the more fascinating things is that I explain this philosophically, which is what I just did with you. But when I'm starting to explain it mathematically, that's just get to a whole new level, because I actually show through numbers and arithmetic and geometry that everything that I just explained with words can also be seen with diagrams and symbol. And as soon as you can decode the language, it's the same. And with numbers and mathematics, it's the same language as well. It's just that we haven't been told the right language. When to speak that language and you're starting to see it's the same. Like mathematics speaks the language of nature, and nature speaks the language of mathematics. Just that we didn't know how to create that bridge.
Right. Isn't that kind of like the golden rule? Is that what's called the golden rule? I think it is.
The golden ratio will have an expression
golden ratio,
of it. Yeah, the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence would be one expression of it. But if you don't understand how to read the golden ratio, because there's one way, one specific way to read the golden ratio, then it will not reveal its magic.
Would be wonderful if all this was taught in schools.
Yeah, and I try to teach that to 6, 7 years old, and they get it. They get it straight away. Like, of course
that's what I mean.
Sense.
Yeah.
It makes much more sense that forcing them to learn something, like table of multiplication, for example, it's complicated to learn, because what needs to be learned isn't natural. When you say truth, when you speak truth, truth is natural. Truth resonates.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that my audience appreciate with what I share, because I constantly try to share the same level of perspective. Even if it's my perspective, I'm trying to always go to a space where I'm going to speak universal laws, to bring that frequency of truth, which is in a way boring, and that's the curse. That's the curse of the stillness, and the fact that we're living in a world of lies, and we are getting addicted to lies. We're getting addicted to the manipulation and the wrongness, and including that, like all those movements of a new age, which are like they are storytellers. They're creating stories over stories over stories, and it's something that we get addicted to, because we love losing ourselves into those lies, because they makes us away. They push us away from truth, and it's something that people unfortunately are getting addicted very quickly. For example, if you look at the body of a woman, the raw body of a woman, this is truth. As soon as you're starting to hide it, you create desire. And it's something that we've been programmed. It's not true, but we've been programmed through that to not appreciate the nakedness of reality. Like now, looking at a tree, looking at nature is boring. It's so much better to look at nature on the screen. It's crazy, but that's how we're going through. Like, people prefer looking at documentary about nature on the TV better than opening the window. And that's the level of craziness that we have to go through for whatever reason. I don't understand why we're going through that journey. I just know that there is a reason there, and that humanity has to lose itself to be able to remember itself. And the remembering is happening slowly. Like, we are going slowly into that space of remembering, and that for a lot of people it's going to be a shock.
Are you speaking of now? I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening now. I mean, we know that we are in this transition, this ascension process, this whole of raising the consciousness. What are your thoughts on all that with what you do? And I mean, do you speak a lot about, because you said you were teaching to 6th and 7th grades. Do you do a lot of teaching? Do you do a lot of speaking on this at all?
This is a part of the advanced course, because there's no point talking about like those things if you don't have the basis, understanding the cycle, understanding the resonance, understanding the harmonics, because that which happened in the music is happening in matter, it's happening in time, it's happening in events, it's happening in history. So like up to a certain degree, of course, there's variable, because but you can see that there's pinnacle point, like this threshold. And if you can analyze the threshold through music and harmonics, you can actually predict when the next threshold is going to happen, which is what the elite is constantly doing through astrology and through many other divination principle, like all those things. They don't know that their job will be to influence that energy when those points will happen to go towards serving their own interest.
Yes.
That's how it works. So yeah, I'm talking about it up to a certain point, and but yeah, it's the big picture is that everything is based on wave, and a wave is going up and has a threshold, and then going down, a point of neutrality, and then touch the bottom, which is another threshold, and then we go up again. So again, it's very simple. Now, how this is organized following the motion of the universe and how all this is organizing itself is a little bit more complicated. But the whole point is to understand that, and this is maybe the only belief that I'm authorizing myself to have, is that everything is perfect, creation is perfect, and that the only thing that is required from you is to surf the wave. And as soon as you're going to try to judge creation, we're going to try to take control or stop or oppose a resistance, you are going to be the one dissipating the energy, basically. So, you know, when electricity goes through a wire, if the wire opposes a resistance to the flow of energy, the wire gets hot. Same with you. If you're not going with the flow, you're going to get hot, which is dissipation of energy. There's method to calm down the body. There's method to dissipate the energy differently, because you have the kinetic dissipation, which is getting hot, or you have a work on breathing. The breath can also dissipate the energy. So that's how all that works. But if you want to avoid being in that space in the first place, if you want to avoid like opposing a resistance to the flow of events, you need to anticipate and you need to go with the flow. Just let it go. Let go the resistance.
Right away. Well, there's this, I don't know who said it, but whatever you resist only persists. You know, yeah. So it's better to let go and surrender. Absolutely. What about structure of time? You talk about that too. What are your thoughts on that?
I just mentioned with you like those cycles which are organizing creation. Women are very aware of it because they are naturally rhythmed by this, the menstrual cycle. Men have different cycles, and again, the polarity is happening. The women are regulates, and the man is more chaotic. Again, we have the structure and the movement. So, yeah, the man can actually learn those cycles when the woman knows them. So the woman needs to learn how to get out of those cycles, to embrace the masculine chaos, and the man needs to learn discipline to embrace the feminine structure. Time is a substance, basically. So we are programmed to believe that matter is, and that matter flow through time. Where the truth is that matter is a subsequent aspect of time. That matter doesn't exist, as I said before. But what gives the illusion of matter is time. It's the fact that when that thing goes in motion, it gives that illusion of solidity. The same way, if you move your hand into the air slowly, you will not feel the air. As soon as you move faster, you're starting to feel the resistance of the air. Same in water, like it's easier in water. Like if you pass your hand into water slowly, you can have the illusion that water doesn't exist. As soon as you go faster, the resistance is happening because of the inertia. Like your hand goes faster than the inertia of water, and therefore you feel the resistance. So time do the same. Time accelerates in some moment and gives us the illusion that this is real. But the substance of reality is time. And this is why today the economy is something, another topic that is very tricky, because most of the people never really question, for example, money. Like, what is money? What is commerce? What is economy? So economy is the science of the usage of money. But what is money itself? Most of the people don't know what it is. They think it's a physical thing. They think it's a currency. But if you listen to the music, a currency is the current that brings you to the sea. So it's a cash that is flowing. It's something that is liquid, that is moving into a specific dimension. The same way time is that liquid that allows you to go from one point to another point, that is carrying you from one perspective to another perspective. And time has a geometry, has a rhythm, has a structure. And again, those who understand that structure can surf with it, and those who do not understand it will be trapped into it.
Right. I know that when I was reading some stuff about you, that you talked about being a musician. Are you a musician? Yes. So do you feel?
I haven't played for a while, but I used to be a musician.
So music being a part, because we talk a lot about waves, and of course music is waves. Do you feel that has enhanced, or I'm sure, well, do you feel it has brought a lot to you, the music aspect of it? Because I know, in the universe there's the notes and there's this hurt.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to learn violin when I was, I think, six years old. And violin is not any type of instrument. It's one of the rare instruments that require to learn how friction induce chaos in a sensual way, let's say, in a sensual way, because guitar or piano or like it's not a coincidence that you have that distinction between the chords and the wind. So the chords are like violin and cello, and basically it's bringing the friction to induce vibration and resonance. And this is very particular. It's guitar doesn't have the same sensation at all. It's like you just play the string. You can have a tiny bit of sensitivity with it, but it's nothing compared to violins or instruments that use breathe, like flute or saxophone, which again is a little bit different because it's now working with the breathing, which is like again a body experience. Drum is also a fascinating instrument because it requires the full body to express itself, like left and right and left leg and right legs, and combine that things is like you can easily have a mental orgasm playing 4 different parts of your body in a different way. Like there's that sensation of oneness in the desynchronization of the 4 aspects of your members, let's say, that no other instrument that I know can provide. Like it's a really full-on experience. And I would strongly recommend anyone that have kids young age to make them play instrument, as many different instruments as possible, as young as they can, because this is such an aspect of connection, because it connects their body, which is made of those cellular waves, and with the music that is expressed, and this is like giving that interaction between frequency, music, harmony, and the vibration of your own body, because each cells have their own resonance. Each cell inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale, and this is a vibration. This produces a vibration, and each vibration enter in resonance with others' vibration and create that concert that is producing your unique frequency, your unique blueprint. And when you expose that blueprint to a music instrument, and the music instrument is answering you, then there's a harmony that starts to happen, which is very healing, very very profound, very connecting to the world. So music is I don't play enough, unfortunately don't have time. But it has been a very important aspect of who I am. Yes. Without music, I wouldn't be able to understand frequency, harmonics, resonance the way I do. And music is one aspect of it. But again, if you understand that laws are universal, you actually can easily starting to see that by studying music, you can study the universe.
Yeah.
Because the same truth, like a truth needs to be true at every aspect of creation. So if it's true in music, but it's not true in mathematics, then there's a problem. And this is actually what was the base of my mathematical theory, is that if after do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, I have again do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and again do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and therefore why after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I never have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 coming back. So what? How? How is it possible that my ears are telling me that the more I increase the frequency of something, and the more I arrive to a threshold that will allow me to go back to the beginning and start a new cycle again, and why mathematically it doesn't happen? Is it my mind that is wrong, or is it my ears that are wrong?
Right.
Okay, so I came to the point of realizing that we were using wrong mathematics to describe the world, and that suddenly by changing the paradigm of mathematics, everything's starting to get clear. Like I thought I had 10 fingers, and now I see, no, wait a second, I have one thumb and one thumb, one index and one index. I have 5 fingers and 5 fingers. 5 and 5 give a harmonics. I have the 5 left and the 5 right, and it's a harmonic principle. But if I'm starting to see 10, I actually refuse to acknowledge the individual properties of each fingers. I deny the existence to the individual aspect of them, and that's a problem. That's a problem. Like if you're starting to count 1 to 10, you are like the ancient used to count up to 12, because they were using each part of the fingers. So if it's 3, 3, 3, 3, so they're counting to 12. Okay, and this is 2 because you have 12 hours here and 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. So you have 3, 3, 3, 3, so you have 12. So 12, you say knuckles, or how do you say in English? And then you have the day and the night, so you have the duality. You have the duality here, so the 12 of the day and 12 of the night. And this is actually matching what we see in reality. But when we see 10 and 10, we deny even the simple observation that, no, I don't have 10 fingers. Because if I had 10 fingers, I would have 10 thumb, or 10 index, or 10 major, or 10 pinky. But it's not the case. There are individual things. It's like saying, we have 7 billion humans. Yeah, well, how many identical humans do we have? None. Or maybe we have a few pair in there with twins, but even twins are not identical in every aspect. So it creates that confusion that do not really allow us to see reality as it is. And in music, it's actually giving you those principles and allowing you to master those different ways, like the way each note needs to be played with another note to create a harmony or a disharmony. And this is what, like when you're starting to understand music theory, you're starting to understand psychology, you're starting to understand energy, you're starting to understand things which seems completely separate from there because you do not look at music the same way. And you also start to understand earth vibration, because each music is matching a certain earth vibration. So that's why each country in the world has a specific music according to the vibration of the land that they have, because each land carry a specific frequency, and that language.
I love that.
Sorry?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. No, go ahead, finish. I'm just writing it down because I just love that.
Because each land actually carries a specific vibration, and how do the land send and transfer the frequency to the people? Through the trees. The trees are the intermediary between the sky and the earth, and they are also the intermediary between consciousness and subconsciousness. So we actually found out through the music of the plant that, for example, Mozart was nothing more than writing music that he was listening from the tree that was in his garden. When we plugged the music to listen to Mozart's trees, we actually heard some of the melodies that he was writing in his symphony. So he wasn't particularly a genius. He just had a capacity to listen to the music of the trees. The same way many other musicians in the world, which are particularly sensitive, would be inspired by the nature that are around them and catch those frequencies that will manifest those different languages that we call different music of the world.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. It reminded me of a movie that I saw, August Max, about a little boy who could just hear. And he would just play. He was never taught, and he was separated by his parents. And anyway, he sang notes out to them, and they heard these notes. And that's how they were actually joined together at a concert, that they heard him. It was a vibrational thing. So it was a really good movie. So, yeah, and what I wrote down too, the music is a very heart opening too. It like really opens our heart. Well,
yeah, it's tapping to a language that is that doesn't need to be understood. That is, it's a crossing point between coherence and incoherence, and it's like the more you play jazz, for example, the more you understand that fine little line between because jazz is probably one of the most interesting music in terms of because it's giving a structure. But the whole game of the jazz is to get out of the structure. So music is characterized by its capacity to structure, because if there was no structure, you wouldn't be able to play with others. And jazz had developed that capacity to have that subconscious structure, and the whole game is to actually get out of it and to, without losing it, get out of the structure without losing it. And that's what makes it a very interesting music, because it's all about life. Life is about understanding the rule and playing life according to your own rule. So escaping the rule to be able to play them freely with your own touch, with your own blueprint. So like the whole idea is to bring freedom into structure. So. But knowing that there are laws that you can't really transcend, that you can't really go beyond, and the freedom, the free will, has to be expressed in that frame. So the whole idea is to be able to expand the frame as big as possible, without losing structure, but still allowing people to express themselves in the proper way, which is again what we are doing through the referendum initiated by the citizens. For years, the government was the only one defining the frame of freedom and say, okay, we allow you to be free if you follow those and those and those rules. For example, like we decide that hallucinogenic mushrooms are dangerous for the body. And now, suddenly, we decided that the FDA said that magic mushrooms are the best way to cure depression. So they just changed the rule, but the truth that is true today was already true 20 years ago. So if we let them define the frame of our freedom, we also condemn ourselves into our own jail. So the whole idea is to take that initiative of what we want to change and what we want to implement, because we cannot, like life is a much too serious game to let it into the hands of economists and politics.
Yes. Well, that's going to be my next question. How are you implementing what you have with this spiritual background and with the LLS movement, Rick?
The only thing that I can do is to always take that height and try to distill that wisdom through what I say, but there's nothing much more that I can do. Like what we're going through now is a crisis of consciousness where I don't believe that people are that asleep. I believe that people don't want to wake up, which is a whole different story. When you sleep, you sleep. I believe that there's way too much happening for the people who don't know that there's something wrong. But they choose to stay in bed, basically. They choose to keep their eyes open, their eyes closed, and stay in bed. And this is what is frustrating, because you have people who already wake up and they jumped out of bed and they get ready for the world, and those who are still in bed, eyes closed, and waiting for something to shake them up strongly enough so they will actually get out of the bed. And that choice, unfortunately, like, you have two people. You have the one that is shaking the other, and you have the one who's like, no, just leave me alone, let me in bed. And that choice of opening the eyes and getting up and starting to act is something that goes way beyond what I want, what you want, or what whoever wants. It's an individual choice. It's something that people need to decide in their hearts when it's going to be the good time. And there's nothing really much that we can do about it. We can only guide them, and we can only be the best aspect of who we are, and inspire and support by showing love and patience and also education, because ignorance is one of the most dangerous aspect of it.
Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to open up to question and answer if you're open to that.
Of course, if there's some.
Okay, and then before we do that, is there anything that you want to add or that you want to?
No, I'm open to whatever questions.
Okay. Maybe I'll ask you at the very last, and then I'll do 5 minutes. So we'll do about maybe a half an hour, because then I want to ask you one last question before we close the show. Okay, you guys, we're going to open up to question and answer. So if you have a question, please post it and we'll ask him. I'll just see if there's any questions on here. Hey, everybody who's tuning in, thank you. Let's see. I don't see any questions. Hey, Linda. Hey, Junior. Well, I'm going to ask these questions until we get a question, and if we don't, then we can always close early, but let's see if we have anything. So what would be one thing, well, that's kind of hard because there's so many things, but like, what would be something important that you would want to share with the audience, that something has really helped you on your journey?
I guess one of the most important aspects is to trust yourself. Trust yourself because there's that constant polarity between what you know and what you don't know, between what you think and what is real. And the only way nature found to allow evolution is to make mistakes. So every time that something is happening to your life, just dare. I think this is the most important things, like dare challenging, dare going forwards, dare losing yourself, dare questioning, dare exploring extremes and reunify yourself around the center. It's like, you can't find the center like this. You need to explore extreme first. So never have preconceived perception, never judge. Or if you judge, be happy to be wrong, be happy to challenge and to admit and ask for forgiveness and transcend and do. And if you don't feel doing, don't do, but bringing consciousness into everything you do, being present. Feel the heaviness of life and the existence, because according to me, the only thing that distinguishes human from plant or animals is the spectrum of choice we have. So a plant, for example, has a spectrum of existence which is delayed in time. Like plant can live much longer than us, but their capacity to move in space is much limited. So we see again there's a polarity here. Like we can move quickly in space, but we don't really move well in time. Okay, we're limited in our time on Earth. And if we look at the difference between a chicken and a human, for example, let's say a chicken would be able to evolve in space pretty quickly, but the spectrum of choice that a chicken will get access to, competency, we can call it competency, is what differentiates human and the other realm of animals. So therefore, be competent, because that's what will honor your kind or your race. But in the meantime, use your competence for good, because if the difference between you and the chicken is the spectrum of choice that you use it wisely. Like, I would like people to be more aware of the responsibility of free will. Because when you choose, for example, to sit down and watch a stupid things on TV, for example, you are using your free will. You are wasting your free will. And by wasting your free will, you are not honoring all the other species on Earth that would love to have that free will, would love to act and do something positive to bring back order into chaos, for example, or bring chaos into order. Like I'm not worshipping one or the other. Like if you are too structured in your life, then please bring some chaos. And if you're too chaotic, please bring some order. And that's the path, that's the journey. And unless you explore both sides, you will never get access to evolution, where the world we live in only want us to go in one direction, one path, get that house, get that partner, get that car, that kids, that pool, that materialistic things. They basically program you to create your own jail. And we need to transcend that. We need to be able to explore that thing and realize that, yes, security is important, but security is not enough. Adventure is amazing, but adventure by itself is not enough. So it's just finding that fine-tuned balance between what, again, inside out or outside in. Okay, knowing that none of them is the answer. Like, you can't find the answer in any aspect of it. So it's constantly bringing that dance of structure and movement into every aspect of who you are. And only trust can allow you to do that. If you do not trust yourself, you will never dare to do anything. So it is through that daring that magic happen. And I see too many people today do not dare. They're just like too scared to go against the status quo, go against their parents' beliefs or their friends' belief or all that. Like they, and this is something that is really detrimental for us, I believe.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. We've got some questions though too. Jill has a question. How do we embrace our sovereignty when the Western government of the world are tyrannical and oppressive? For instance, paying taxes.
So first of all, there's two levels of the question, because there's how do we embrace sovereignty? Sovereignty exists outside of government. Sovereignty exists in the authority that you recognize as a sovereign being, as a divine person. So, and this belongs to you. It belongs to anyone else. We can program you to believe that you are not sovereign, but you will buy the program. And if someone programs you to believe that you are not sovereign, then it means that you can also deprogram you to that belief. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect, in regards to tax and government, I invite you to research like what really tax are, what really banking system is through maritime law. Like if you type, what's his name, Jordan Maxwell on the maritime laws, if you research the Justinian Deception. This is a YouTube channel, the Justinian Deception. You're going to go into a very deep rabbit hole that is going to enlighten you to the true nature of government, tax, and consent. Because in the natural laws, nothing can happen in this reality without your consent. The consent can be stolen. You can be lying, of course, but if you've been lied and you bought the lie, then you are fraud. You are responsible for that, because basically you didn't listen to your heart. If you didn't listen to your heart, and if you didn't access to your truth, then therefore you are fraudulent. So therefore, it is your responsibility. Yeah, it is important that people realize that truth isn't something that can be taught. Truth is something that has to be experienced and felt, because there's no truth in this reality outside of the truth that you, as a sovereign being, can express in a particular moment. Okay, there is no universal truth outside of the one that you will live in a specific moment. So if someone is coming and tell you that that's the truth, you say, well, this is first your truth in this particular moment. In 10 years from now, maybe this truth will completely disappear, will be completely the opposite. So the one truth that you accept in your reality is a contract that you are having with reality. And the government can force you to believe that you don't have a choice, but the truth is that you always have a choice, always.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Roman. Thank you, Jill, for asking that question. Shoshi has a question. What is going on with the Yellow Vest protest that now Macron is bringing the French army to counter this protest on the pretext of keeping the peace? Thank you, Shoshi.
Well, what's happening is the government is playing his role, and I thank him for playing that role. He's unrevealing the truth of the true nature of the government, and by doing this, is going to allow a lot of people to wake up to that reality. So what they do is they are obeying to their real masters, which is not the people, which is the people of the finance. They're there to protect their own paradigm, which is based on power and abuse, and they're just doing what they're good at, which is to bring chaos into an illusion of order. And until the people will wake up to this illusion, like, they will just continue and continue and continue and continue until we will shift into a new paradigm. So what's happening with the Yellow Vest is just, again, the natural event of time doing its magic, and the synchronicities of the crazy people in government and crazy people in day-to-day life waking up to the acknowledgement of each other's perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Shoshi. Linda has a question. Have you ideas to tell us of ways we can keep our vibration and our frequencies high? As I understand it is important right now.
So there's a few exercises that that are doing a lot of are good. And again, simplicity is the key. So it needs to be simple, but simplicity doesn't mean easy. Okay, so one simple example is how you want to keep your vibration high, just by being present. That's as simple as that, being present. Being present is that not letting your mind taking over you. It means you recognizing your own existence. That's the first step. Knowing the difference between you, your emotional body, your intellectual body, your spiritual body, your physical body, like recognizing the difference that there is between all those different subtle bodies. And when you meet yourself, when you met yourself, then like, get friend with it, trust it, and navigate with it, which is probably the hardest aspect. The hardest aspect is to trust that journey, no matter how. Like, if you look at the word, the Kabbalah is coming from the world. There's many words entangled into it, but one of them is caballo, which is the horse, and the whole symbol of that is that consciousness is the knight on the horse. The body is the horse. Like all the bodies are the horse, and we're here to navigate reality on the back of a wild animal that we claim to control or that we claim to understand, but that has its own intelligence. Your body has its own intelligence, your emotions has its own intelligence, your mind has its own intelligence, and you, the knight, the driver of the vessel, have your own intelligence, and you need to recognize each individual aspect of it to be able to maintain the vibration of who you are as the experimenter, which is basically the, how do you say in English, the director, the music director of that orchestra. Because the physical body has its frequency, the emotional body has its frequency, the mind body has its frequency, and you are there trying to create harmony in this mess of agendas that doesn't always fit your own. But the more you trust, the more you go with the flow, the more you navigate, the more you realize that it's actually only harmonious if you step out of the way and just accept what is, without judgment, without if the violins wants to play a little bit faster, that's fine, that's okay, it's not the end of the world. If the drum slow a little bit, that's fine. You can just slow everyone down and just like manage everyone to adapt to the flow. So a great exercise is every time that you pass a door, to remind yourself, am I present? Because it's like a muscle. Presence is like a muscle. So you need some excuse to train yourself. So you pass a door and you're like, am I present? Am I present? Yes, okay. And you're going to find out that if you do that process for more than a month, you're not even going to ask the question, how do I hold my vibration? Because you're going to be like, yeah, I'm present. Because you're going to be so familiar with the state of being present that the question will not even be relevant. You're like, yeah, my vibration is high because I'm present. The only thing that can bring your vibration down is not others, is the fact that you lost the place. If you left the place and you let the space unoccupied, some others can come and influence your emotional, intellectual, physical body. But if you are present, if you're here, I'm in my realm, I am in my kingdom, then you cannot lose your frequency. It's your own destruction that makes that put your own vibration in danger, not the others.
Powerful. Woo, thank you, Roman. Thank you, Linda. Junior has a question. Yeah. Where does France go from here? Where does France go from here? Where will your yellow vest movement carry on until the French people get what they want? Thank you, Junior.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Where does France go from here? So will the yellow vest movement carry on until the French people get what they want?
I think we reached the point of no return, but this is not my decision. This is not anyone's decision. I guess it's going to be individuals, but by exposing the true nature of this so-called democracy and the madness of that system, we allow some events to happen, and those events will induce consequences. Those consequences will induce other causes that will induce other consequences, and that's how history is written. So, like, I just take an example. Last week, some cops refused the entrance of the Senate to senators. That will not go like this. They will have consequences. We have 300 people who has been badly injured. 30 people lost eye, 20 people lost their hands or foot, and broken bones. This will not go without consequences. And what are going to be the consequences? I don't know. I cannot predict that. I just know that we started something, and that thing will just expand and expand and expand and expand and contaminate other countries. And the only thing that I need to do is that the universe is perfect. Doesn't mean that I do not have to play my role. It just means that a lot of people think that because the universe is perfect, I just can sit down and just look at the stars. Well, you can if you want to, of course. You have that choice, but you will also find out that if you just sit down and look at the stars for too long, then your body will just deteriorate days after days unless you learn how to become breatharian, which could also happen. But it's every cause induces consequences. So you like, okay, and if you become breatharian, maybe you're going to be happy with that, or maybe some other things will miss you because you will not be socially accepted by others. And so there's no real solution, there's no real point. It's all about constant adaptation between that dance of chaos and order. So what the yellow vests are going to do, I don't know. Like, are they going to become violent? I think there's going to be a point where people will become violent. The government will escalate the violence. They will put fire against fire, and then just have a massive firestorm. And when the bloodbath will happen, then it will calm down everyone, and then people will be more reasonable. But until then, I don't know, because that government is doing a great job at waking up people on the true nature of that soft dictatorship that we call democracy, and they don't seem to be ready to let go. So we'll see. But
we're
the
hoping
yellow
all
vest,
that
if
happens.
the question was, the yellow vests are going to are the yellow vests are going to stop it or not? I can't answer, but I don't think so. Can you excuse me for a minute? I think there's someone here who would like maybe to join the talk, which is a part of the community. Would you like to meet him?
Yes, please. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody who's joining. Carl, I'll get to your question in a second. As soon as he comes back, he's going to bring somebody else on that is part of the movement as well. Again, thanks for anybody who's just tuned in mid-show. Wherever you tuned in, we greatly appreciate it and hope you're enjoying the show. Roman's talked about the Yellow Vest movement. He's also talked about sacred geometry and atomic void. I got a huge lesson in that. I'm still wrapping my mind around that. So, yeah, it's just been really enlightening, and the perspective of the masculine, feminine was just like, wow, like that kind of, I loved it. So really enjoying the depths of where the show has gone. It's been really beautiful. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So let me introduce
yes, and you are
to Max.
Oops, can't see him. Max?
You can see, yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
I think there's something with
there you go.
Okay.
I know it's kind of weird on your guys' end, yeah. Hi, Max. Welcome.
Hi.
Max is a manager in the community of Them and Her, and he's organizing a little bit the expansion of this community. So if you have any question about that community that exists since 50 years now? Is it 50?
Yeah, 44.
44 years, which is probably one of the most spiritual place on earth that I ever found so far. So he's yours now.
Yes, I want to go there. So when Roman sent me the video, I was like, oh my gosh, every emotion came up within me that I was like, okay, this is a place that I probably have some, probably energetically been, but would love to go. So, I don't know. My first question would be is how did it all come together? Was there just, one person had this thought of, was it something that already existed? Some of the tunnels, the temples?
Everything started in the 70s. Damanhur is a founder that is a man whose name is now Falco Trassaco in Damanhur. People decide to take an animal name at a certain part of their path, and his original name was Oberto Airaudi, and he has been a gifted child with a very interesting story that you can find in some of the books we publish. And since he was very young, he started to express some skills and and knowledge that was uncommon for a child. And so he very early started a center in Torino where start talking and making experience about energetic healing and everything that was paranormal in that time. And after a while, with a group of people that was attending these courses, he proposed, what about making these type of, let's say, lifestyle your permanent lifestyle? So why can't we create something to live together and to experience and go on experiencing these subtle world of energies, these magic things all together? And they started a research of places around the world, physically and by astral travel. And one day they came here in Valchiusella, that is close to Torino, 1 hour, less than 1 hour from Torino, in a place that was completely, say, abandoned and with a lot of mud and things like that. And he stopped the car, and everybody was asking, "Why are we stopping here? It's not such a nice place." What? Yeah. And an old man, ran and said, "Finally, you're here." And he said, "I'm waiting you since 10 years, especially you." And he pointed at a lady that was in the group. He said, "So now you're here, and this is the place I was asked to prepare for you." And he gave them the land that he has collected piece by piece, because here in this area of Italy, land is divided in very small properties. So he bought some of his land to have a first settlement that now is Damil, our capital. And he said, "I prepared this to you." And he was happy. And 1 week later, he died. And
my God,
that was how everything started. And so this group of people that were 12, they started to build everything, but was nothing at all. And they start to build the first part of a physical place to live together and stay. And then they started to build the temple. That at the beginning was just one single small hole in the mountain on higher places, and then becomes what you have seen. And that place is there because here we have the crossing of four what we call synchronic lines, that are energy lines that connect the planet and the other planets with us. And so this is a very special place, and it's special for several reasons. When the temples become public, that was one in 92, because it has been built completely on secret by less than 100 persons. And when it became public in 92, then a lot of geologists and people came to make all the check by technical point of view and so on. Everybody was so surprised, because there were rocks coming from very low in the earth that are not normally at this level, and everything was so also structurally strange and connected with everything that is. And we have had several things, like we've had all the guy who make the studies on the Bosnian pyramid, who came here, made some tests, the instruments exploded, not exploded, but go over scale. So it's a special place.
Very, very well. For everybody who's kind of watching, we didn't really go into depth of, other than he's in a beautiful place. It's very spiritual. Can you share about the name of the place where you guys are at and what that means, and talk about, like, this is it is the secret temples. It's a community that you guys live in. kind of give us an explanation, because the viewers and the listeners don't really know. We didn't talk about that.
Okay, so Damanhur means city of light. It used to be an Egyptian city that has an underground structure also. And it's, I think, one of the most complex spiritual, social, and community experience in the world, because it's so diversified in so many fields. Because it's we have four main big project goals that you can find in the website of Damanhur Foundation, that at the moment is the one who better present with a new language what we are doing. That is Damanhur.foundation. And
You spell Damanhur?
Damanhur is written Damanhur. There is an H. Damanhur. It's so first of all, just to clarify one point, since the founder passed on another level 5 years ago, Damanhur opened up to the world a lot. Now we are really in a big transformation process. So that's why I tell you that that website better present the main project. The main project is the land of temples. So we have the underground temples of humankind. That is what you see. We have seen probably. We have a sacred wood that is up the temple, that is the sacred forest, that is the temple connected to the plant world, and all what we call the Humanitary Alliance, that is the second big main project of Damanhur, to reconnect human. We think that everything is human, also the plant one, but anyway, the human and the plant world in several ways. Through communication, we are studying, for example, the way to communicate with plants through music, while we have instruments to make plant play music for us, and many other things, but also practically natural detergents, agriculture, and we have all that kind of aspect. Food processing, energy connected to the food, and everything is connected to the world of plants. Yeah, and so these are the temples and the humanity. Then the community part, and for the community part, what we are doing is to we have a very complex community by social point of view, economic organization, political structure, spiritual connection with everything, game of life, to develop the evolution of people through play and through dynamic events. A technical project that is how you set up your own goals, and you work together with the others to be more focused on your goals and on your change program. And we have all that aspect. Everything is supported by the many type of let's say procedures and practice that are courses and knowledge on one side. Energetic part, we have the temple that is an incredible energy source, but also healing school that activate people as a prana therapist and to prana healing and energetic healing, and we do a lot of research on that. We have a Selfica, that is a kind of art science that produce this kind of device here, that like this one, and this one, and this one.
Okay.
And it's an ancient language based on geometry and form that can channel energy in a specific way.
Yeah, these are kind of let's say keys to connect with energies that help us on specific topics. For example, this is for creativity enhancement. This is to protect against electromagnetic fields. This way, this is the same thing on a gold bracelet. This is for integration of personality. We have a very complex cosmogony and say philosophical view of how world and cosmos made and how we are made in terms of
yes, we were talking about earlier. Yes.
Yeah, we believe we are made of a lot of personality. This is for the immune system, for example, this one.
Wow.
And so this Selfica, it's a powerful supporter of our evolution. We have things for environment, also based on Selfica, to clean the energy of the places, to enhance positivity, and many others. And the last, no, it's not the last, we have so many projects, but another big project we have that is connected with, on the temple, you say, you will see also in some of the new hall, the connection between all the divine forces. And that is one of the big, and this is connected to the reconnection of all the people, the peoples in the world, that is especially the traditional ones, the native ones. And we have a project that is the Parliament of People that we want to develop also with a physical new temple that will be called the Temple of Concordance. And we are traveling around the world now to reconnect with native people all around the world. And we have them also connecting to us because it's very curious, at least, that some of the native people that lives in the middle of the nowhere, when they get in contact with people who know us, they say, we know that there is a place in the north of Italy and that something has to be done there. And so we want to preserve the knowledge and the tradition and the connection with their energies and their divinity, and that is what the Parliament of People project is.
Now, there is no control on the outside, correct? Like there's no, I don't want to, like the government, or you're kind of off the grid, yes?
Yeah.
In a way, like you have your own community where you kind of, there's no rules from the outside. Like we were talking about the government, you know, we have to do certain things and stuff like that. We have to, well, we don't have to, but.
Oh, okay. We are in Italy, so we have to be in the rule of our country, of course, and we are. So we are working a lot now, for example, to restructure all the legal entities, the association, the foundation, in order to be completely transparent and clear and work in the right way. It's not easy in a country like Italy that, you know, is kind of complex by the rules and so on. We have our own rules that are decided and we live them by choice. For example, our marriage contract lasts 1 year because every year you have to confirm and to make a ritual again to confirm your wish and willing to go further and make a milestone to understand, and you make a promise on how you will relate with your partner and which are your common goals. But this is an add-on. It's something that is, and of course we have our complex society rules. We have our own parallel coin to manage some of the internal economy. We are now connecting with many more communities outside, and there are also other communities that get inspiration and connection with us, maybe because they are interested in just one of the topic, and we decide to develop something together. So it's a very nice moment of opening in these days.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Now, our children, they're schooling there too, correct?
Yes,
or is there not?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
We have our own internal school till the second grade, till they are 13. And the school is open also to people that is not Damanurian. So there are also children that are not from people from Damanur that attend the school. They follow the common the Italian scholarship program, and in addition they have also other topics: develop yourself, art, and other things that are more connected to a different type of development of human being. Children are cute.
I love it. Yes, yes. How wonderful. What a great place to be. Oh, I definitely want to get there for sure. Well, we can open up to questions. Yeah, thank you. Because I know that Carl has a question for you, Roman, and then we can open up to questions for both of you. Because anybody well, everybody's tuning in. This place, you've got to check it out. It's absolutely, there's no words for it. It's just such a beautiful, the energy. I mean, like I said, every emotion, I just so resonated with it. So, yeah, it was just so beautiful. Yeah, it was delicious. So we're going to open to questions, but Roman, Carl does have a question for you. If you don't mind, can we answer this question? Please describe through examples how you operate the balance of feminine and masculine in your everyday life. Ooh, we were just talking about that too.
Challenging.
It's a difficult question because it's every day is different. So I guess the essence is the state of balance, as I said. So always being present, and when you're in a state of presence, you are in a state of equilibrium. But then when you want to interact with reality, then you need to make a choice. And when you make a choice, you actually make an action, and that action puts you out of that state of neutrality and brings you into that state of all masculine or feminine energy. So if you want to work on your inside world, you will make the choice of meditating and coming in and exploring your inside world. And if you make the choice of interacting with the outside world, you're going to be in more that masculine state. So the whole idea is to don't be petrified about the idea of making mistakes. Be happy about the idea of making mistakes, because first of all, mistakes doesn't exist. It's all about being true to yourself. But when you are in that state of connection and consciousness, you constantly learn. So no matter if you go out or if you come in, you will always learn, and from that perspective, you will trigger some synchronicity in your existence. You will have some signs that are going to guide you into the next level, and you're going to explore different things. So there's no real recipe. It's more that awareness of being present and then acting. Because when you act, you step out of that neutrality to explore the realm of polarity. And every time that you explore one aspect of the polarity, you just need to put that discipline in your mind to explore the other one as well. Every time that you do something from the outside, then do a reflection on what it triggers in your inside world. And every time you do something in the inside, just look around, what are the reaction of the people around you. And that's how you constantly balance the masculine and the feminine and grow both of them together.
Wow. Love that. Thank you, Carl, for that answer. And Max, do you want to answer that too? But Roman, you're going to have to scoot in a little bit because we can see half of you. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Max, do you want to answer that question too?
Oh, yeah, why not? This is a big part of our philosophy at the moment, the reawakening of the feminine, and my personal opinion, and I will live it and integrate in my life. It's through present and the neutral observation, and presence meaning awareness of yourself and your emotional part and your body. It's one of the key point of our healing school that I had attended for 5 years. This is a marvelous path. It's 3+2. It's a long transformation journey that is the one who activates you for the prana therapy. And our teacher, that is Orango, the founder, always said, listen to your body. Listen to your body, listen to your emotion. And that is the part that it's not in the mind that give you the real balance and consciousness of what you are feeling and what are the message that comes to you. And personally, in doing this exercise and listening to me, I realized that these two polarity that Roma was talking is my masculine is the one acting, it's the one that react, that is fast, input, decision, input, decision, input, decision, and while my feminine is the one that take things, it's more welcoming and as a slower and more connecting complexity way of thinking. And my personal exercise is to balance, to get access to my feminine, is stop reacting, especially in the interaction with others, and start listening. And listening, activating my body to listen, not just my mind to listen. And that create this really shifting consciousness and presence, and open up a new way of interacting with others. And that's the way I try to do this hard path of balancing the two parts.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Carl, for that question. Linda has a question, and you both can answer it, whoever wants to go first. Her question is, do you consider loved ones, other people, as real, R-E-A-L?
Do you consider what?
Loved ones / other people as real. Not sure
do
how
you
to
consider loved one / other people as real?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it depends of your definition of real. What real mean? I guess if I can answer the beginning, because I talked about this topic a little bit before. I guess in a way, reality is a complicated topic. What is real? What can we see? What can we comprehend? Apprehend is difficult to define. There's a whole aspect of who we are, which, as we cannot see ourselves and we cannot transform ourselves because we live the experience of existence from the inside out, I guess the matrix, in a way, must manifest some aspect of who we are through others. I think this is why this lady asked that question. And the way we see others is not the way they are, but the way we are. This is something that starts to get a bit more common today. We don't see others the way they are because we don't know who they are, because we leave our perspective on them. So we see them the way we can see them, through our own filters. So we have the filters of our own perspective on reality, and others or loved one are the product of all the experience that they've been through up to today, all the expectation about the future, all the expectation about, all the understanding about who they are today. And we don't get access to this. We only get access to what we can see of them. So in a way, of course, what we see of them is nothing more than what we can see of ourselves through the others, if this is the question that this lady asked. So we just need to be aware of it and use it as a tool to understand what message are we trying to tell to ourselves. Because there's only two ways to do that. We can speak to ourselves through meditation, or we can speak through ourselves through others. And others include life, science, synchronicity, reality, and people. And so if we, and exactly as Max said, if we stop reacting, if we just take a breath and say, okay, wow, that's something triggered some emotions and some button has been pressed, it is time for me to just take like a step back and observe the reaction and observe the emotions and observe the thoughts that are going through us. So then we can actually get access to the true message, which we are the only one that can get access to it. No one else than ourselves can understand ourselves. And that's the true responsibility that we have.
Awesome. Thank you. Woo, Max.
What Roman was saying about what we know about reality and others and how much more complex that we can imagine are, it's really consistent with one of the metaphor we use. We use a lot of metaphor to simplify the explanation of our reality. That is, reality for us is a crystal. And as you can imagine, a big diamond with a lot of facets, what is that? How can you get the overall view when you see just one single facet? We normally are just so close to that we can see just one part of this big crystal that is so complex. But that part, that facet is not unreal, but it's just one point of view when you can see through also the reality that is just one single part. And why it's so important, for example, live in a community, share with others, because you can easier get access to what the other are saying, the other how they mirror you, but not just you, how all the different facets of reality. And through that, increase your awareness. That is the base to develop yourself, because this will get you access to more knowledge, to more different point of view, and to more transformation of yourself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The growing and evolution of one. Oh, love it. Thank you too. Thank you for that question, Linda. Jill has a question. Linda does. Another Linda. Truth as a sovereign being. Maybe you can speak more regarding this. Truth as a sovereign being.
Truth as a sovereign being, in regards to, like we talked a lot earlier about that notion of sovereignty. For me, truth and sovereignty are the same word. Like it's the same. When you are true to yourself, you are sovereign into your body. It's only when you lie to yourself that you lose that sovereignty. And I spoke about that a little bit earlier. When you let others decide for you, when you let others make decisions for you, influence you, it actually means that you let the land empty for others to take over yourself. So for me, I don't see any difference between truth and sovereignty. I see difference between truth and lies, or denial of reality. I see a nuance between sovereignty and slavery. Like you can get addicted to the idea of not being sovereign, which is also something that is very detrimental today in our world. Like people get addicted to that notion of being slave to something, and no matter what it is, it could be a job, it could be an addiction, it could be the sense of powerlessness. This is a very big addiction that we have today, the sense that we are incapable of doing something, but none of that is real. Like it's just in our mind. It's just like blockages that we put in place to have excuses. So we are the nose on the crystal, and we actually build a castle of crystals around us. So everywhere we're looking, we're like, yeah, look, I cannot do anything. I just have crystal around me. But the point is that we build that castle. That castle doesn't exist. It's only existing in our mind because we created it. So there's a real need of people taking responsibility for creating their own crystal castle and realizing it and destroying that castle to get access to true freedom and true sovereignty, because no one else than yourself will be able to do it. So, and as soon as you do that, your second responsibility will be to inspire others to do the same and to spread it to the world.
Mm. Yeah. Once you step forward, you can't go back. That's for sure. Max, your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's what we. Gosh, I can't translate it exactly in English. It's libero arbitrio, so the free will.
Free will.
What we call libero arbitrio in Italian and in Latin. That is the one of the main responsibility of each individual. That is for us and for me, and that is also the responsibility to look and to perceive things without filters and without all the boundaries and the crystal castle that Roman was speaking. So, and starts with the deep question of what you want really. What is your mission? What are you here for? And for moving to this awareness that is fundamental to give you sovereignty and control and a consistency on what you want. Knowledge is one of the elements that is important, because knowledge and experience. So going through a path of acquiring information and experience about who you are, who you have been, which are your past lives, or why you are here for. It helps you to put you again in control. And the second big one of the payoff of Damanur is experience the power of connecting dreams. And one of the exceptional things here is that how could you imagine that 12 people in the middle of the mud with nothing could create something like what they have created for a year after? And so there is no limit actually to what you can create, especially if you do it in group, because setting your rules, there is, if you will come to Damanur and in the temple, please remember to ask someone to read one of the piece of written that is next to the door of that hall, because it says about how rules are important to set your own one, but also to give you the way of connecting and related to the others, to have the possibility to create together something. And to relate to the others, not like animals fighting, but people who want to create something together. This will empower a lot and the capacity of fulfilling a mission and mixing together. We are working of what we call the super individual state. That is something that is your sovereignty, but also connected to the others. Because this is really the empowerment one. So you can connect to the others, like the skills of the others, the capacity of the others. We have also a lot of magical things about how to do this through techniques.
Wow. Makes me just want to come there. I'll just go there energetically right now. Hang out with you guys. Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for that question. Jill has a question. What percentage of humanity is awake or awakening now, do you think, is one part of the question. What is the tipping point for the collective to rise to 5D is the second part of that question.
Okay, I didn't get the second.
The second one is, what is the tipping point for the collective to rise to the 5D? So there has to be a tipping point. It has to be, I think, 51%. And then we all go, is my understanding of that. So her first question is, what percentage of humanity is awake or awakening to go to the tipping point?
I personally don't have this data, and probably I don't know if it's a percentage of people or in general is the vibrational state that also, I don't know if it depends by the number of people or by the mix of actions and magical operations and sacred place created in the world that can activate these moving to a next level. For us in Damanhur, we really believe that we have done through operation that has been made in Damanhur, but is made also with cooperation of other magical entities in the world, a shift between a timeline that was moving and driving us in a very, very bad end to another one. And that we've constantly has to keep awareness, consciousness, operations in order to stay on this higher frequency, higher consciousness timeline between the many. And we are on that at the moment. I don't know if there will be a tipping point. Maybe some of the people in Damanhur knows, it's not me at the moment. But there are, and there will be one and another and another and another and another. So there will be, let's say, it's like a stair. We do one, and then we move to other levels, because in our cosmogony views, and we are like a broken mirror, where each of us is a piece of his mirror. If you consider the mirror the big divinity and the starting point, and our goal is just reconnecting all these pieces and re-become the mirror once again. So that will before going there, that will be several tipping points probably.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Roman, what's your thoughts?
I have not much to add to what Max just said. Okay. There is, I don't believe that there's a 50 or 10 or 20 or, I mean, that there's a few ratio, a few proportion that you can look at it, like the golden angle and the golden number, that are giving you some indication of how, like the pinnacle point, like the threshold is could be attained. But is it really important? Like, I don't think so. It's what we need to focus on is ourselves being the best version of ourselves, inspiring others, showing courage, showing integrity, showing strength, showing ambition, not individual ambition for humanity, for the earth, aspect of existence, and trying to do good. Remember that what makes us different from animals is the spectrum of the choice that we can make, and with that comes a big responsibility. Yes. So it is important to keep this in mind and to make the best usage of our free will.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that. Your contact information, Roman, people are asking, do you want to mention where you can be contacted? And then also, Max, if you'll mention, or you can even to Roman, of how to get in contact with where you're at.
Yeah. So on Facebook, you can find me under Roman Light, but I'm receiving too many people who want to add me as a friend. So if you want to send me a message, you can just go on that page and send me a message, or you can contact me through RIC, so RIC, referendum by the citizens, Roman Light. So you can find my Facebook page. And this is where you're going to find all the last update about the Yellow Vest. And now I'm going to bring more and more information about spirituality and incorporating the two realms, like the solutions on one side and the problem on the other side, and showing that for every problem there's a solution. So people will get less afraid to come into those spaces and open their consciousness what has to be done, what has to happen.
Mm.
And on YouTube, if you want to get in touch with me and if you want to see all the interviews that I make about Yellow Vest and in many topics, spirituality and politics, economy, like I'd like to be really in both space. For me, there's no separation. As in Damanhur, there's no separation between politics, economy, social, spiritual. It's a philosophy of life. It's a circle. It's all intertwined. So on YouTube, you can find me on Referendum by the Citizens. So Referendum by the Citizens, you will find my yellow logo, and you will see many interviews that I made, so people can educate themselves on those topics. Because this is more important than getting in touch with me. Like, what is more important is that the people get less ignorant and get access to more knowledge, more freedom, more solutions, because this is what's going to save the world. The enemy is ignorance, and we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. So the more we can push away the limits of our ignorance and the better version of ourselves, the better capacity to do the proper just action would be given to us.
And to contact me and to contact Damanhur, what I suggest is there is a Facebook page, there is Damanhur Spiritual Community, and it's my team that manages it, so it answers all the comments and questions that come from there. From there, you can have access also to our blog, where we publish a lot of videos and contents. You can discover there some history of Damanhurians, a lot of videos about what Falco, our founders, was talking about to the people who was coming to Damanhur on several topics. And we have also information about the courses, the experience you can do here in Damanhur. And we are active also on Instagram, if you like also to have some views of what is happening here. And we try to answer anyone. And I'm sure that the team who manage, if you mention Max or whatever, will forward me all the message.
Awesome. Thank you both. I know I want to respect your time, Roman, because I know that you have something you're doing in 15 minutes, so I want to respect that time. So I don't want to do any more questions to allow you that time and space, whatever you need to do to get prepared for that. So if that's okay, you can do that. So if there's do you guys want to anyway, we're not going to do any more questions, you guys, because I want to respect the time with Roman and Max. So is there any last words that you want to just put out there to any of the viewers that'll be tuning in afterwards? Anything last words?
Okay. So thanks for having invited me, and first of all, and thanks everybody for listening. We are in a real challenging moment in the life of our community. We are really open to collaboration and extremely in need of people willing and interested in developing new ways of living, working, dreaming, and creating art and whatever. Be patient, because we are almost 600 here in Damanhur, but not so many in communication. So we might be a little bit, let's say, late in answering, and we have also at the moment a big need in helping us to spreading all the big knowledge and all the big content that we have through the digital channels that are not one of our strongest points at the moment. So this is a call for support for everyone who can. And people is always welcome to come here. We are really open in several ways to people who want to visit, to people who want to make the experience, to groups who want to create special experience for their groups. So We organize also meditation in the temples with spiritual teachers that want to bring their people, and or in the sacred forest. We're really open to the word as we have never been so far so much.
Ooh, yes, I love it. Yeah. Ooh, good.
So
Thank you for that, Max.
What I'd like to share as well is that Damanhur is not really something that you can talk about. It's something that you have to experiment, something that you have to feel with all your senses, because it's not just the eyes, it's not just what you're going to hear, it's also what you're going to feel, what you're going to touch, what you're going to feel with other senses that you don't even know exist, which is a very interesting experience. And yeah, like you can't talk about this, you have to live it. And when you live it, there's different level of acknowledgement. The first time you feel something, the second time you come back, there's another things that unravel, and there's the initiation that happen. When you get access to the initiation, you now get access to a whole new level of interaction with the space and the people and the energy. It's something that cannot really be expressed with words. So what I would suggest to people who are really interested into spiritual development is to get rid of a little bit the talkers and look at the doers. Them and her are people who are speaking a lot because they're Italian, of course. So
Sans.
but
I do
doers,
too, and I'm not Italian, but that's okay.
But they're doers, and like you can learn a lot by listening to them, but you will learn even more by looking at what they've done. That experience of going into a space like the temple is a life-changing experience, because suddenly it reminds you of what humanity is capable of doing when we basically cut into the bullshit. Like when we focus on what has to be done, and we set up a higher purpose for all of us. And it's a brilliant reminder of what could be humanity if we were just stopping for a minute to be distracted by all the mind's belief, needs, and all that. So I would strongly recommend people to get their head around, and as soon as they have an opportunity to jump into a plane or a train and come to visit, because you will never understand that place by watching video. So, and on my personal level, look, I just wish more people to dare, as I said before, dare to be themselves, dare to challenge their belief, challenge what they think they're capable of doing, and if I could inspire a few people to do so, that makes me feel good. So I'm going to share more and more spiritual content in my channel, in my YouTube channel, and my even my Yellow Vest channel, because it seems that the people now starting to feel that there's something more than just people getting out, and something big is happening, and we can't yet see the ramification and the consequences. We can only starting to see the first wave, and in a tsunami there's the first wave, then there's a moment of calm, and then there's the second wave, and it's just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think we are going to go through very interesting time, very challenging but very interesting as well. So more than ever, knowledge is going to be necessary to navigate in those troubled times.
And do the research, do the research and just find, because there's a lot of information out there that's accessible. So it's not like we can't find it. So it's definitely there. So you too. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, so enlightening and so profound. And I'm just in gratitude. So I appreciate what both of you are doing to transform, but beginning with yourselves and going out there and just inspiring and making a difference. So my gratitude and my thanks to both of you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And we can organize another talk in a few months, let's say, for example.
Would love that. That would be awesome. Yeah. Thank you
And
so much. I appreciate that.
just to make a small preview or announcement, it's not yet completely decided, but stay tuned, because in the middle of May, probably during 18 and 19 of May, we will make a special event on Facebook, YouTube, and opening up a new hall of our temples and showing it to the world for the first time. We're trying to do it, to understand if we can do it for those dates. So it will be a very, I think, interesting view, because not only is extremely beautiful, but we explain what do we mean as connecting all the gods in a new.
Yes. Oops, freezing up. Oh, there you go, guys. You guys are back. You just froze up a little bit. Yes. Well, that sounds beautiful, and we will look for that definitely and keep posted on that. And Roman will touch base, and I'd love to do another one, that's for sure. And so, Max, maybe we can do something regarding the secret temples. So we'll talk about that too. I'll reach out to you. So thank you again. Thank you, all the listeners that tuned in today. Thank you for all your questions. Greatly appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't get to the other questions. And thank you to everybody who will be tuning in after this and at the replay. So we love you. We thank you. And much gratitude to you. Thank you both. And thank you to everybody else. And we will see you later. Thank you. All right. Love you guys. All right. Bye.
Close it.
Yep.
You can stay open.